As a CSU Stanislaus graduate back in the day, I'm pretty excited to tell you a little bit about my school, my alma mater. Um, in here, I'm showing you the Delta College website because I want to take you through a couple areas. So that's why we're looking at that right now. But first, when I was trying to figure out where to go to school, I was MJC student. I know, don't hold that against me. Delta is so much better. I shouldn't talk down about MJC. I mean, they're not that bad, but Delta's number one. We're amazing.
That's right.
So you're at the right school right now. And when I was trying to figure out where to transfer, there's just so many choices. It's crazy. So I was also a basketball player. So at the time I was being recruited by different schools to transfer to and play. And so I went and visited the campuses, and I knew ultimately, I'm not going to make the NBA. I'm not, I'm 6'5", but I'm not huge. I'm not fast. I kind of had to be real with myself. So I wanted to graduate from college. So I wanted to go somewhere that was going to, prepare me for the future, what was going to be next for me. So I wanted to gain those skills. To me, that's what college is about. It's about getting as many skills as possible, because when you get on the job, people don't care about all that other stuff that you bring to the table. Like, what's your degree say on it? Where did you go to school? What matters is, what can you do? You're going to be evaluated while you're on the job for what you can do. So I want to gain those skills so that I can demonstrate that I'm good at what I'm doing, work my way up the ladder and start making some money and, living a good life, which is exactly what happened. So when I was looking at Stanislaus, it was a really good fit for me, because if you're looking for a school that is a smaller school, so Stanislaus, when I went there, it was really small. It's probably 6,000 to 7,000 students. I'm sure Dr. Claus could tell you now where it's at. I'm guessing it's around the 10,000 mark, which is not a big CSU. The campuses I visited that were big, that he had a lot of students, 15, 20, 25, 30. I know Delta's a pretty big school, but when you're at a CSU, you could be in big lecture halls. We don't do that at Delta so much, but I'm just not that kind of student. I need smaller classrooms, more one-on-one instruction. Like my faculty advisor, Dr. Hilpert, was amazing. I'm just in with somebody who's, takes an interest in me. And so I felt that when I went there and visited, and I wanted to, do the best I could in college for later on. So that's why I transferred to Stanislaus. I also played basketball there. We won our first championship. Yes, it was awesome. So I had a great experience at Stanislaus. So I want to tell you a little about, you're here to find out about transferring to Stanislaus, and we have it here in Stockton. So I want to tell you a little bit about the program. So how do we figure out what to do at Delta to get out of Delta and transfer from point A to point B without losing units, losing time, all that. I wish I would have known this stuff when I was at MJC transferring. So I'm going to show you. It's actually pretty simple. On the website, if you know what to do. On the website, just go under academics, and then you can scroll down here to catalog and schedules. So I would hit that. And then it comes up this section where you can go to the online college catalog. Under the online college catalog, we'll bring that bad boy up. It's all about knowing where to look, because you can get lost in all this real easy. Okay, so on the online catalog, go down here to certificates and degrees A to Z. Click on that bad boy. And now you have a list of all the certificates and degrees at Delta College. You can click on any one of those and explore those majors. For us, I want to transfer, right? So that's what I'm thinking. So Communication Studies AAT, that's the one you want for transfer, because that's an AA degree for transfer. So anything with an AAT or an AST, that means you're transferring out to a four-year school. So we'll click on this Communication Studies AAT. When we go in here, the nice part about the way we've developed these AA degrees, you can read the top portion of it, and it basically gives you a rundown of what the degree is about and what it's for. So you can see in here, a communication studies degree, to me, bachelor's degrees are very broad degrees in general, unless you're doing something like engineering or nursing or computer science. For the most part, the rest of them are pretty broad degrees. And if you look in the workplace, most of the places that are like these top companies, they all report, and you can look this up, you don't have to take my word for it. They all report that the number one skill that they're lacking in their workers is communication skills. So why wouldn't I be a communication studies major? That's the way I look at it. So communication studies really applies to every industry, everything you're going into. Communications number one. That degree is amazing. Now with communication studies major, say you get a bachelor's degree in communication studies, you don't have to do a master's. I think, I love a master's degree in communication studies, but it prepares you for everything. So you could go into a master's degree in counseling if you want to become a school counselor or counseling at a community college. You could go into business. There's just a few prereq classes. You can do a master's in business. You could do a master's in social work, public relations, whatever. So if you want to get into a specific field later on, you could do the graduate degree there. Most fields require that graduate degree. So communication studies sets you up for everything. In here, it talks about the fields that you can go into, but there's just so many fields: politics, business, public relations, marketing, whatever. I mean, there's just so much. So you can read a little bit about that right there. Then we go down, and this is going to tell you what classes you have to complete at Delta to transfer. So it's going to be 18 units. Most associate degrees for transfer to 18 units. So here's the list. It says right here, your core class is going to be that public speaking class. Everybody's got to take that as a comm studies major. Then you also have the comm studies 3, interpersonal, comm 5, which is the debate class. I teach all of those. Love to have you in my classroom. So that would be 9 units right there. And then you have, pick 2 of these, any one of those 2 that you want to take. And then finally, the social media and society. Obviously, social media is huge. And so understanding how social media works in society is, really everybody should be taking that class and understanding. Look what happened with our election and social media. It's crazy. Now, so that's pretty easy to understand. Those are the 18 units you need to have. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. And that's why you want to, Lydia could probably talk about this later on. You want to be with your transfer rep from Stanislaus. So you make sure that you can double count. I don't know what the other phrase is, but I call it double counting. Something that you take for your major that also counts for general ed, because really at Delta, that's what we're doing. You're doing general ed and your major. Those are the 2 main things you're doing and transferring out. So if we look at this list of classes right here, these 18 units, how much of that is used in the general ed that you need to complete in order to transfer? Because if I take the correct classes on the GE pattern, that are the communication classes, they count for both, for the major and for the general ed. So if we look down, it says you have to do GE. So it's right there for you. You got to go down, hit the transfer for CSU, click on that bad boy, and then up will come the CSU GE pattern. The CSU GE pattern, it's about 39 units. It really depends on some of your class choices. If you choose a class that has a lot of units, it'll make this more units, but it's about 39. Now, if we look on here, the first area, oral communication, it gives you 3 choices, right? Well, if you're a communication studies major, guess what? If we look back, now click back, what was the first class you have to take as a comm studies major? Comm 1A, right? So if you take comm 1A, right here, it counts for this requirement and it counts for your major. If you go in and take workplace communication or small group for your oral communication class and you're a comm studies major, guess what? You get to go back and take public speaking. So now you get more communication studies. I guess it's great, but if you want to go to point A to point B without taking classes, you don't, I shouldn't say you don't need them, because any comm class is a great class to take. But you wouldn't have to take it if you were watching closely on both patterns. If we go down to critical thinking, you have to take any of these. The traditional route is most people take English 1B or 1D. That's pretty much, everybody tells them to take one of those 2. No, Comm 5, argumentation, debate, that counts for GE. So as you notice on the list here, oh, these are my dogs. We'll get those under control. Over here, you have to take Comm 5, argumentation, debate. So I'm going to go back to the GE. It's right there in GE. That's the one you take. Now, can you take English 1B and 1D? Yeah, you can take either one of those, but you're going to have to come back and take Com 5 as a transfer major to get that AA degree. Hopefully that makes sense. We could go down. There's some other ones in here. Down here in this GE pattern for math, you can take Com 14, Com Studies 14, stats for com majors. So it uses communication, like opinion surveys, polls, and that's what you do with the statistics. So that class would work right there. It also would work for the elective category on the major. In here, on this C1 Arts, you have, where is that? Oral Interpretation of Literature, Com 2. I don't know if you saw Brandon Lee. He won America's Got Talent. He did the spoken word, or at the inauguration, they did some spoken word poetry there. Guess what? Delta College can teach you how to do that. That's that class right there, Com Studies 2. And it counts for general education. And guess what? Over here on your major, bam, it's right there, Area B. So it would count as a class that you could take for your major. It counts for like everything. It's amazing. So then we go back to GE, keep going, com is everywhere. That's how important com is. Communication is just everything. Then we go down to the Area D. In Area D, you have Com Studies 7 and 11. So you could take one of those, and that also would count for your major. Also, for most schools, that also counts for your race and ethnicity requirement or your ethnic studies requirement, whatever they want to call it at the school. So that's a triple count class right there. So that's on the list as well. And then the last class on this A through E pattern would be right here, the interpersonal communication. That's also required right there. So you can see basically everything except for the MCOM 5 counts for general ed and for your pre-majors. So that's 15, that's almost half of your general ed that you take for transfer could count for your major and general ed at the same time. Pretty crazy, right? So I wish I would have known that when I was a comm major, because when I transferred to Stanislaus, I didn't take all of those classes. I had my public speaking, that was it. And when I got there, I had to go back and take all this other stuff. Or actually, I could have got my AA degree in communication, which I didn't do. I wish I would have done that. So that's kind of, my portion that I want to talk about is getting you ready at Delta. Understand that communication counts for basically everything that you want to go into. It doesn't mean that later on, if you decide you want to go to a graduate program and get something very specific, communication sets you up well for that. You see that you can double count major, general ed. If you plan it out correctly, get with your transfer rep. Lydia will tell you about that. And then when you get to the four-year school, everything's about the major. Not everything, but almost everything. I mean, the majority of what you do at the four-year school is going to be the major. Dr. Claus is going to tell you about that next.
What can students get when they're at CSU Stanislaus, and particularly with this degree? Students here are eager to see what's waiting for them, what classes they have to take, how does the program look? So, Dr. Claus, the space is yours right now.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of inspired to go back to school and go to Delta now.
Please
and just start over again at this point. No, but I mean, because Steve and I, we've talked, often in the past. And so what I can share with him is this like unbridled, respect, I think, for the degree. And obviously we're biased. We come from comm, we live comm. This is what we do. But honestly, knowing all of our different friends in different environments as well could all benefit. Two of my best friends from high school, one's a neurosurgeon, one's a radiologist. They could absolutely benefit from communication studies. I love them to death, but they cannot speak for the life of them when they give lectures in class, and it's hilarious because they finally, I think, see full circle what it is that, I've done and kind of dedicated my life to. But, beyond, right, just that presentational skill focus. Of course, that is the bedrock of oral communication, is being able to take knowledge that you have gained and synthesize it and package it and encode it and present it to an audience so that they can pick up what you're laying down. Of course, that's what it is. But, and Dr. Graham also, kind of went through the different types of courses that you can apply this to. It's also about the prep, right? I think the biggest challenge for us in comm is to articulate to individuals that it's not just presentations, that persuasive messaging, that is communication. The social media development of content, that is communication, even though it is in its written form. And so that's kind of, one of the barriers that we can kind of go through. So what I'll do, can I share my screen? I can. Okay, let me show you what I affectionately call the flow chart of our major. So can you all kind of see what I'm working with here? Yes, fantastic. So, well, I'm gonna give you a little bit of backstory very quickly and kind of tell you what I'm gonna do in the future. So I'm the department chair. I suppose I should let you know of the Department of Communication. So this is my, second year in this role. And, one of the things that I am committed to for my students currently and for future students, like yourself, if you're interested, is trying to give students the most options you possibly can with this degree. I think, in the before time, as I like to call it, the relational organizational track is kind of the main focus for the Stockton Center. However, due to the growth and the interest of public communication and media, and also kind of and by extension, my faculty's desire to break down what we call a false dichotomy. Like you look at these, two columns, and I'll go over it. They look like different types of communication, and they are, to a certain extent, but comm is comm. And, students are very interested in both relational organizational courses. They're very interested in public communication and media classes. And so I am trying to determine a way in which we can offer more of the PCM up in Stockton. Now, I will tell you with all of the full disclosure that I have, this COVID we've taken a beating across the system, in terms of our available resources and our funding and aspects like that. And so what that means for the immediate future, in the next year, let's say we are going to go back to campus, our face-to-face offerings in Stockton are going to be very minimal. And that is honestly not a lack of commitment or a lack of desire to have instruction up in Stockton. It's clearly that with all of the needs that we have at Turlock and Stockton, we can't cover all with the available faculty that we have. However, I think that we are, as a university at Stanislaus State, trying to think of different ways in which to get instruction to students. So in the before time, it was very limited to the codec room that we call it. And so basically what it is, you come in to the Stockton Center and then you would see me, give a live lecture, but I can see you while I'm in Turlock, right? And so that's kind of what that vibe was. And I mean, honestly, I think some professors do better in that climate than others. I would always try to, make a point to at least go up to Stockton and teach in the reverse, at least, 2 or 3 times a semester, because I like my Turlock students to realize what a point of privilege it is, to be able to have that instructor face-to-face every day. But, now that we're doing Zoom and we have different types of integrations and obviously site licenses to this technology, I think that there might be better ways that we can have students kind of Zoom in, maybe even from home, right? To get to some of these courses where we might not have the opportunity to schedule them in an actual classroom. So this is all to say, right, that I, like anyone else, really doesn't have any idea what the future is going to hold in terms of modes of instruction. All I do know is that we are going to exist. I mean, barring anything that I do in my 3rd year as chair to destroy the program, I think I'm doing okay thus far. Like our numbers are up a little bit, which is great. But, what is it, right, that you can do? All the things that Dr. Graham listed. I say, and listen very carefully when I say this, if you just get through a comm degree, right, and you just do what you need to do and bear down and grind it out, we prepare you for any sort of entry-level position. Okay, at its most basic, right? My dad was an exec for GE for a number of years, right? And he said, there is nothing that you can do in the college curriculum that is going to teach them about the very specifics of a J75 12-foot cubic inch freezer, right? That is stuff that you are going to learn on the job at the company to which you are going to work. So that level of specificity, right, is always going to be on the job training. However, now more than ever, and I'm going to echo this again, you look at any of the big numbers, Indeed, Monster, Forbes, Inc., Fast Company, all of that, they have articles almost every single month talking about the doubling down of the importance of communication skills. It is about rapport building at this point in time when we're all mediated and we feel disjointed, we don't feel close to anybody. It's extremely important. Now, whether you can do that through your written word, because I know people that are obscenely eloquent in their written word, but they can't present worth a damn. And that's fine, right? Because I also know people that are kind of the reverse of that. So, you know, the whole thing with our degree is that we're trying to empower you. We're trying to promote your own efficacy, right? That we want you to believe in you. And I know that sounds a little Tony Robbins, but the whole point, right, of education is that I can sit here and tell you all day long that you're doing a great job. You need to believe that in yourself. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to challenge you across all of our different courseworks in our different contexts so that you're somewhat applying the same material, but you're doing it in different ways across your degree. So if we go into, let me see if I can zoom in to this part right here and blow this up. All right. So when you look at the prereqs for our degree, again, you have A1 requirement and an A3 requirement. Dr. Graham already went over that. If you take your public speaking, your workplace, your small group, that is going to count for this right up here. Oftentimes, we will see if there's any sort of course that can count as an intro course to communication, and we can kind of sign off on that. You know, the point is, by the time that you get to us as a transfer in your junior year, we're not trying to bog you down with any of the lower division requirements, at least within our department. So we are very open, we're very forgiving, I guess is another way to put it, in terms of the courses that we'll accept for that, because again, we really want you to kind of dive in. And of course, we don't want to keep you here for just like one more class that you don't really need to take. But that's really it. That's our kind of prereqs. Once upon a time, we did have journalism, a minor in journalism, but you know, our focus kind of went away from this idea of print journalism. And now we're obviously focusing to more long form journalism in the sense of podcasting and radio. We have an amazing radio station, KCSS, which we're actually working on getting a space up at the Stockton Center. Greg Jackway, our program director, is just a freaking American treasure. And he's been working with KCSS for like 25 years. He's figured out ways that during COVID with remote broadcasting systems, all of his current students and new students are actually able to do their shows, which is amazing. Like that still seems like wizardry to me, like how you can sync that up. But he has a way to do that. He also can now, you know, do kind of a remote station up in Stockton. I'm just trying to bully Famous into giving me a closet or anything just to start out. We could put in the transmitter and get it going there. But again, along those lines of dedicating, you know, to student interest, if there is that, I'm happy, you know, to put up technology there to ideally at least give resources from faculty, you know, to grow that interest. But, you know, once we get down past the prereqs, you know, our major is kind of a choose your own adventure in a way. We do have 4 courses within our core that every single student is going to take. So that is going to be our communication theory class. That counts as our writing proficiency course across the university. You are going to have a choice between a quantitative methods. So Dr. Graham talked about, you know, stats. That would be, you know, kind of a great precursor to quant. And then also there is going to be more of a qualitative methodology. So if you're interested in rhetorical criticism or, you know, interviews, focus groups, things of that nature, you know, we try to facilitate both of those different types. If you want to go to grad school, I always say take both, because you're going to be taking both for the rest of your life. If you go for your MA, you go for your doctorate degree, they're always going to be there like sharks in the water. But all right, you also then have to take 4160, right? That's going to be the intercultural communication. That's also then going to count for the multicultural requirement that we currently have. And then our last class is going to be senior capstone. So senior capstone, again, is supposed to be that culminating class. We have many different instructors that teach it. When I teach it, my focus is to get you to produce an artifact that you can take on a job interview. I think that it's very easy to say what communication is, but sometimes a bit more difficult to demonstrate that you actually know what it is that you can do. And so I think that whether it's a research paper, or it is some sort of, hypothetical branding approach. Something tangible that you can bring on a job interview is something that we are very concerned about within, well, not just Capstone, but, kind of all of your classes. There is a delightful balance, I think, between intrinsic motivation for learning, which of course we want to instill in everybody, but then what it is that I'm actually going to do with this. And I think that our classes kind of are 50-50. Some make you think and feel all those amazing feelings that my wife says I should have more of. But there's these other classes, right, that are much more focused on, strategic comm, public relations. Like, these are actual skill building courses that you can say, I do know how to put together, a campaign. I have done, some survey research on campus, and I can run those, numbers. Those are great things, right? And I mean, I speak from a little bit of privilege being, the chair, that I have students that'll shoot me emails every once in a while and be like, you know what? I hated your class, but guess what? It works now. Like, I actually use it in my job. And I'm like, well, it's delayed gratification, I feel like, on some of this. But when you're looking at, again, then kind of what you're interested in communication, the way that our degree is right now, and I say right now because I finally convinced my faculty to change our major, and I'm super stoked about it. And that's going to probably go live in the year, where are we? Is it 21? So that's probably going to go live 22, 23. So not next year, but the year after that. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep all of our courses as we have them, but we're going to break them all up so you don't have to choose one or the other. It's going to open up your availability, that if you just don't, like, if you're interested in relational organizational, but you're really not interested in the interpersonal stuff and you want to take more applied organizational classes, this new major is going to let you do that. You can still kind of do that here because, again, choose your own adventure. We give you big blocks of courses aside from the core that you can choose from. It just all depends on availability. Speaking of availability with Stockton, I try to have at least, I think we have maybe 7 or 8 classes a semester that we're trying to get in the synchronous video for right now, so that you really can, open up your coursework. And I have, for what it's worth, I've been trying to champion for the changing of the times, because I tell everybody that if you just took a glance at the course catalog at Delta, you realize that not all of the classes are at night. So what then is the magical thing in student schedule by the time that they leave Delta, that now all they want to do is take night classes? So I'm really trying to make sure that we can kind of build this block between like 9 and 3, because I think that's usually when most of you are taking your classes. And so I'd like to, it's now being a new parent, I realize if you're one, or if you have another job, that kind of functionality of timing is paramount. And so then if I have to tell you that all your classes are at 7 o'clock, you're gonna be like, cool, thanks, I'm going to Sac State. We don't want that. We want you to come to Stanislaus State. So within our degree, right, relational organizational is one of the tracks that you can pursue. And so right now, those are going to be courses on the relational side. Interpersonal, advanced interpersonal, we talk about family, we talk about gender, we talk about marginalized relationships and that kind of coursework. And then on the organizational side, looking more at management, OrgComm, my class, training and consulting. So much more applicable material to on-the-job skills that you might be able to apply one-to-one, kind of wherever you go. I always say that no matter what field you go into, there is always going to be this element of finding information, synthesizing it, and packaging it for a different audience. That is, I think, an axiom of work, no matter what it is. I mean, even when I was a bartender, right? Like I knew the recipes, they asked me for something, I made it, hopefully something they could drink, and I gave it to them. That technically, right, is engaging in that process, a lower level of it, but it's still engaging in that process. So relational kind of organizational is trying to give you the balance of here are the skills, but then how then do you present yourself within those personal and professional spaces to kind of make your communication more effective. Our public communication and media track, I also, love. We have more of an adherence there to the development, the construction of messages. It's not always persuasive, but in the PC&M track, this is where we have our public relations curriculum. This is where we have political communication. We have our rhetoric courses, looking at public address and things more kind of, mass media. So one message to many. What I can tell you, and I'm super stoked that I was able to do this last year before the world fell apart, is that we were able to hire a brand new assistant professor of social media. And so one of the things that I wanted to do when I took over as chair is open up that complement of courses, because not only is it something that is very much derived from the field of communication, but it is something that is always going to be with us, right? Good, bad, or other at this point. And, Dr. Graham earlier talked about how that influences the election, and how I was just reading an article where like Snapchat is trying to basically encourage you to reduce the amount of like randos that you follow to stop the spread of misinformation. That's absolutely right. A part of our comm curriculum in terms of information literacy. So it's all connected, right? In some way or form. But this is all to say that we are in development this semester to hopefully run live next year, hopefully, 3 different social media focused courses. Okay. And so that's going to be, like a CMC theory class. One's going to be about social media in the organization, and one's probably going to be about social media in the personal relational context. For me, I know that I'm developing a strategic communication course that's going to be a part of our professional comm. And then I'm also going to develop a dark side course, because I taught interpersonal for like years, and then I didn't for a while, and then I just taught it over winter, and then I was like, this is great, but like, what about all the messed up stuff? And so that's what I'm going to teach, because I think that's going to be interesting, to look at stalking, not teach you how. Let me be very, very clear. This is not like a how to be dark side comm, but it's like kind of, what to look out for. And ideally, there's going to be a message of awareness, right? Talking about cyberbullying, like all of these, kind of larger societal issues that, unfortunately we kind of run into either by extension or somebody that we know. But, again, I think one of my goals as chair, for as long as they'll let me be, is to realize that what we did, in 1999, while some of it is great and it always will be, we need to adapt, right? And we need to change. And that's also not just in the course offerings, but the flexibility of what the students want. So if, there's anything, that I can kind of leave you with here, it's that I'm always open to listen to what the students want. I'm definitely trying to change the narrative that we know best for the students. And I really want to hear what it is that you're interested in, because if none of you are interested in relational organizational, and that's all that I have up there, then that's going to get awkward for everybody. So,
that's right.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's my time.
So right now, students, we are going to show you how it is that you can actually apply. What are the requirements? What do you need to bring? What do you need to have? And our amazing Lydia Sanchez is going to be here telling you what to do, what to say, what not to say, so that you can get into this amazing program. Thank you, Anna. Thank you. And Lydia, are you there?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And go presentation mode. Are you able to see my presentation?
We're able to see it, Lydia. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So my name is Lydia, and I'm the advisor of the Warriors on the Way program. So I work for Stan State, but my main office is typically at Delta College Transfer Center. So I'll be going over the Warriors on the Way program. The WOW program is a support program like EOP or like Puente or EOPS at the community college. So I'll be going over the benefits, the requirements, eligibility, and how you qualify. And I'm going to also be talking about the transfer requirements as well. So quick facts. Did you know that in San Joaquin County, only 18% of people 25 and older have a bachelor's degree? And if you can compare that to our neighboring county, which is Alameda, Livermore, they're at 46%. I think it just went higher too. I need to update these. And this is where we're going to be competing for jobs. Really, you always see all these people commuting, right, that way. So another interesting fact is that students who enter community college and say, okay, I want to earn my bachelor's degree, only 14% of them do it within 6 years. And this is known as like the 4-year degree, right, back in the day. So what are some barriers to degree completion? Number one, unclear transfer pathways. Like Dr. Graham was covering, he talked about the major requirements, about GE requirements, I'm going to talk about the admissions requirements, and depending what school you're applying to, those requirements are going to vary between campus. Or if you change your major right in the middle of your career. So another barrier in San Joaquin County, there's maybe private schools, right? Which is really great that we have access to those. However, if you attend a private school, you know that the cost of education is going to be a little bit higher than a public university. I actually went to Stan State myself, and I did my bachelor's and my master's there, and I was able to graduate with 0 loans, which is really, really glad I didn't have to pay money back. And we do have actually Stan State in Turlock, the main campus, and we also have Sacramento State, another CSU, which is like an hour away. But I think some students don't know that Stan State has a Stockton campus. And so when I talk about throughout my presentation about Stockton campus, I'm talking about the Stanislaus State Stockton campus, not to be confused with Delta College Stockton campus, because I know you also have a Mountain House and a Stockton campus. So the Stockton campus offers 10 majors. And the biggest secret about Stockton campus is that any transfer student can complete any of these majors entirely in Stockton without having to commute or to relocate to Turlock. So you only have to go to Turlock for graduation. That's it. And they'll mail you your diploma too.
Nice.
Any of these majors you can complete entirely in Stockton as long as you complete the prereqs before you transfer to Delta. So Delta College and Stan State collaborated, and Stan State in the Stockton campus, and partner up, and they created the Warriors on the Way program to support our San Joaquin County students. We do have the WOW program at other community colleges, but I think Delta College students get the most benefits. And so the overall goal of our program is to give our students a sense of belonging to the Warrior community even before they transfer. So we want students to join WOW at least 1 year before they plan to transfer. But I truly believe that the transfer planning process begins your very first semester at the community college, right? Because you're already, your first semester, you're already taking classes to transfer out to the university. So what are some of the benefits of the WOW program? You get a dedicated WOW advisor, that would be me. Like I say, I'm typically at the transfer center 4 days a week, meeting specifically with WOW students. And you still have your Delta College counselor, but when you're meeting with me, we're focusing on transfer requirements. We're focusing on Stan State, financial aid after you transfer. And we want you to have a better understanding of the transfer process. And then once you sign up for WOW, you actually get invitations to different workshops and events. And if you go to our website, we just updated some of those events. You can look those workshops that are coming up this month and next month. And then once it's time to apply for transfer, we also want to send you emails, reminders, invite you to events and presentations to make sure you're not missing a deadline, not missing any dates, and you successfully transfer to the university. So how do you know if you qualify? So to qualify, one of the requirements is that you must be on the associate's degree for transfer pathway. So the ADT, or the associate's degree for transfer, was the one that Dr. Graham was showing earlier. And it's a little bit different than the traditional AA. So these are requirements for WOW, not necessarily to transfer to the university. I'll go over the transfer requirements for the university later. So the ADT actually gives you additional benefits. For example, if you're applying to, when you're applying to a CSU, San Jose State, let's say it's, for example, it's an impacted campus, meaning that a lot of students apply there, but they can't accommodate everyone. So then they're gonna have higher GPA requirement. They may want you to have all of your major classes completed before you transfer. So the ADT gives you a benefit in that admissions process. It also guarantees that you're gonna complete within 60 units after you transfer. So if you're a full-time student, that means you're gonna complete within 2 years. So those are some of the benefits of the ADT. The university, Stan State, is not an impacted campus. So ADT is not an admissions requirement. This is only a requirement to be in the WOW program. And then you also get other benefits once you transfer to Stan State. By completing an ADT, you also qualify for what's called California Promise. And they offer additional support once you're at the university, some sort of priority registration. So just additional benefits with the ADT for ADT students. Another requirement to be part of the WOW program, you must be interested in completing your degree in Stockton. And the last one, you must sign up at least a year before your intended transfer term. So we are open for students that want to transfer spring 22 and beyond. You can go ahead and transfer and sign up for WOW now. So
What about those that are already kind of late, Lydia, that they're like, oh, I missed it. I they can't sign in no more.
the fall 21 transfer students, they can't sign up anymore, but we still have, I'm going to give the contact information for the admissions counselor that still visits Delta College, Alexandria, and she still meets with students, and they still offer benefits for those students. And I know that once you transfer, you can always reach out to our peer mentors as well. So these are the majors that qualify for a WOW. So we have business administration, elementary teacher education, psychology, criminal justice, communication studies, and health sciences. So in order to get those ADT benefits that I was just covering, and there's some more, you do have to go earn an ADT and go into the major that's been deemed similar as your ADT, right? So from comp studies, you got to go into comp studies major because sometimes there are students that maybe are doing psychology or business, and then they switch majors and want to go into communication studies. That's fine. Everyone's in their own pathway. You just wouldn't get those ADT benefits. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, like I said, the ADT, it's only a requirement for a WOW. It's not an admissions requirement. When to apply to Stan State, we're not an impacted campus. So this is really all we're looking for to get admitted to the university. 60 transferable units. Transferable means any course numbered 1 through 69. And this is what we talk about. We go more into detail during our appointments. 2.0 GPA, your golden 4 classes, which is your oral communication, Comm Studies 1A, right? That's a major class, that's a GE class, that's an admission requirements class. Written composition, that's English 1A, critical thinking, that could be English 1B or Comm Studies 5. And then math, any transferable math, psych 2, math 12. So as long as you have these completed, let's say you are planning to transfer spring 22, you want to have these completed by the end of this summer for spring 22 transfers, right? You can still take classes in the fall as long as they're not towards your 60 units or as long as it's not one of these golden 4 classes. So what are the steps to join WOW? First, you want to declare an associate's degree for transfer and talk to your Delta College counselor, see if the ADT is for you. Not everyone is in the ADT path, especially if you change majors and might require an extra class here or there. So see if you're doing the ADT. Sign up for WOW. You can go to our website, csustan.edu/WOW, and then you can schedule an appointment with me and we can start meeting and discussing your transfer requirements and anything to do with transfer. I know students typically have that financial aid question always. So if you don't qualify for WOW, we still have an admissions counselor that visits the transfer center. Her name's Alexandria, and you can still meet with her. And the university still offers admissions and outreach services, walk-in hours. Right now they're doing virtual, so you can always just go directly to our website and schedule an appointment with an admissions counselor. And you can always go through the transfer center as well to schedule an appointment with me or with the Alexandria. And that's all I have for you.